17th, Congress held a hearing about UFOs. This is the first one in over 50 years. It's happening because of the latest National Defense Authorization Act, which was signed in late 2021. It requires the military to establish a permanent research committee to collect and investigate reports of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP. A UAP is basically a UFO. A UFO is not an alien spaceship, but an airborne object that we haven't yet identified and may or may not be extraterrestrial. The government gave it a different name to try to avoid the stigma UFO comes with. The committee's first step was to release a preliminary report, which it did in June 2021. It said there are 144 credible reports of UAP sightings and could only explain one of them.
So this is a national security issue. Regardless of what we ultimately identify these aircraft or aerial phenomenon to be, we need to know.
This is Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who led efforts alongside Senator Marco Rubio and Representative Ruben Gallego to include a UAP amendment in the latest defense bill.
We always need air dominance to defend this country. And to have UAPs that you just don't know what they are, you don't know if they're Chinese aircraft or Russian aircraft or truly unidentifiable, these are highly concerning issues.
Gillibrand is also concerned with how military personnel are treated when they report seeing something they can't explain.
They are either disbelieved or made fun of or marginalized in some way. And my job as chairwoman of the personnel subcommittee is to really put our service members first.
This isn't the first time the government has tried getting to the bottom of UFOs. Project Blue Book was the last attempt to investigate UFO sightings from 1947 to 1969. The Air Force collected over 12,000 reports, of which 701 remain unidentified. The program closed in 1969 and concluded that no UFO report was seen as a threat to national security. Yet, here we are again, over half a century later, with the same concerns. So, what's different this time? Well, in terms of evidence, we have more. In 2017, the New York Times published 3 videos recorded by Navy pilots that showed objects that seemed to defy the laws of physics. In 2020, the Pentagon confirmed these videos were real. What they were videos of, it doesn't know.
You know, you want the best and the brightest figuring this out because it's an issue. And just putting your head in the sand and saying it doesn't exist is not an appropriate solution or approach. And since I have this role, I can at least mandate that the government start to do it in what I would imagine would be the right way, which is in a transparent, open, and accountable way.
The new office, known as the Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group, say that 5 times, is being led by Ronald S. Moultrie, who was one of the witnesses during the hearings.
You may have seen this video where a Navy pilot named Commander David Fravor engaged with a UFO along with Commander Chad Underwood in 2004. Or this one, called the 2019 UFO Swarm.
Took off, booking it.
10 Navy warships off the coast of San Diego recorded this in 2019. Both of these videos have not only gone viral, they have been recognized by the Pentagon as military-filmed UFO events. I spoke with investigative filmmaker Jeremy Corbell about the recent disclosure by the federal government.
Definitively, UFOs are real. You have been told by your own government, as well as other governments on this earth, that there are craft that are technologically advanced, far beyond what we have in our military arsenal.
So whether you believe in UFOs,
I know there are alien craft here from another planet. I was inside one.
Or not.
I just don't think we have very good evidence that we are being visited by aliens or here on Earth.
Humans have been curious for a very long time with evidence like this.
My name's Bob Lazar. I'm known for working at a classified base and reverse engineered alien spacecraft.
And articles from the New York Times that included what is called the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force.
Well, what are UFOs doing when they're here? You know, they've been observed for thousands of years, really, if you go back into recorded history. So what are they doing here? Why so many? Some people think that UFOs are prepping the battlefield, that in some way they're preparing for something here on Earth.
Corbell has worked closely with Las Vegas journalist George Knapp over the years. NAB has investigated UFOs and extraterrestrial phenomenon for 30 years. They both recognize San Diego as a hotspot for UFO sightings. According to NAB, we're the fourth in the country for UFO sightings. Los Angeles is ranked number 1.
Historically, in our country and around the world, UFOs, whatever they are, wherever they're from, have focused largely on military assets, ships, bases, nuclear facilities, nuclear weapons, things of that sort, as if they are monitoring our progress.
NAB says one reason why there are more UFO sightings off the coast of San Diego is because there are so many sensors here. The Navy, for example, has one of the most advanced sensors and radar platforms in the world, and they're always watching the sky to see if there's any possible threats.
The program that I made public, it's something called OSAP. It's the largest UFO program in the history of the U.S. government, so far as we know. Largest in terms of the number of employees. They had 50 full-time employees, making it much bigger than Project Blue Book, much bigger than a program known as ATIP. The U.S. military, the Pentagon, has reluctantly told the American public, these things are flying around. Here's video. We don't know what they are. That sounds like a UFO to me.
But with everything, there's always two sides to every story. Mick West is a former video game programmer and is a YouTuber.
So I think the redness is mostly just kind of an artifact of the camera.
He's made a career out of debunking videos like the Tic Tac or Swarm videos.
All the things that are supposedly good evidence of alien visitors, these UFO videos, UFO photos, they're invariably very, very poor quality. And you really can't tell anything from just looking at these videos.
He says modern technology has allowed people to manipulate so much that it's impossible to tell if something is real or not.
If aliens were visiting us to the extent that people have been describing, I think we would have much better footage by now, and we would have a lot more of it.
West also responds to the Pentagon, which released a statement in June last year explaining that there were more than 100 instances of unidentified flying aircraft, saying these aircrafts could be anything. Birds, a plastic bag, or anything else.
We are so far past this deception that is being put forward by these debunkers that they're irrelevant at this point.
So could it be that we're really not alone?
And the fact is, until they tell us why they're here, we're only going to keep guessing.
We may never know. Regina On, CBS 8.
For the first time in more than 50 years, Congress held a hearing on unidentified flying objects, better known as UFOs. Pentagon officials testified yesterday that reports of mysterious encounters in the sky are increasing, approaching nearly 400. Nicole Killian now on more on what we've learned.
Do you want to report a UFO? Over. Negative.
Close encounters with the extraterrestrial has long been fodder for films and fanatics of science fiction.
This is a UFO, unidentified flying object, popularly called a flying saucer.
Not since the mid-1960s has Congress held a hearing to examine UFOs, also known as UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena.
UAPs are unexplained, it's true, but they are real. They need to be investigated.
Calling it a potential national security threat.
It's not about finding alien spacecraft.
Republicans and Democrats on a House Intelligence Subcommittee heard testimony Tuesday from a pair of Defense Department experts.
We want to know what's out there as much as you want to know what's out there.
The officials pointed to a series of declassified videos. In one, glowing triangles captured with night vision were later determined to be drones, but still no answer for this fast-moving spherical object spotted during a naval training exercise.
I would simply say that there are a number of events in which we do not have an explanation.
Last year, the Director of National Intelligence released a report that found 144 unexplained encounters from 2004 to 2021. Since then, it's gone up to approximately 400.
Reports of sightings are frequent and continuing.
For CBS Mornings, Nicole Killian, Washington.
Now to the search for answers to the unexplained. A series of unidentified aerial phenomena spotted by military pilots. What are we talking about? Unidentified aerial phenomena? Well, we usually just call them UFOs. Well, Congress is holding a hearing on them today for the first time in more than 50 years, and our Martha Radis joins us now. Martha, we're not expecting really any ET jokes with this takes place. This is serious stuff.
It is serious stuff. It was the late 1960s when UFOs were last discussed in a Capitol Hill hearing. Back then, you would have been thought half crazy for even bringing up such an idea, but not anymore, with the House Intelligence Subcommittee today probing top defense intelligence officials for answers to some very real mysteries.
Whoa, let's get close.
It was the videos that were impossible to ignore, and so were the witnesses. Released by the military in 2020, you hear stunned Navy pilots off California's coast in 2015 wondering out loud what the heck they were seeing in the skies. Former Navy pilot Ryan Graves telling GMA the encounters with these physics-defying objects became almost routine.
We were seeing them nearly every day that we were flying. We were going out there to do our normal training missions, so we weren't necessarily going out there to track these objects.
More than 140 encounters reported by military personnel.
My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
At today's hearings, videos like these being played to show how investigators do their work as more and more unexplained encounters are taking place.
Since the early 2000s, we have seen an increasing number of unauthorized and or unidentified aircraft or objects in military-controlled training areas and training ranges and other designated airspace. Reports of sightings are frequent and continuing.
The government report released last year finding a definitive explanation for only one of the encounters, but ruling out that any of the objects were part of any secret government technology or classified black program. So what might they be? A few possible explanations. Counterintelligence devices by potential adversaries, or something created by the military's own highly sensitive sensor equipment.
These unidentified aerial vehicles basically can do things that no earthbound vehicle can do. We don't know how to do them. And it's really the appropriate thing that the Navy basically said, yep, these pictures are real. They were pinging our radars, but we don't know what they are.
The words alien or extraterrestrial were not found anywhere in the government report, but they were not ruled out either. The Pentagon says today's hearings, while it may not find new answers, will help with how these reports are handled.
It's about organizing around the effort so that there's a common collection process for how these reports get brought into the system, how they get analyzed, how they get investigated, and then how they get adjudicated.
Today's open hearing will be followed by a closed classified briefing, but given how few conclusive answers have been found so far, whatever the classified part is likely will not settle this, guys. So, TJ, you're going to have to work on those ET jokes.
Okay. You know, that's what jumped out here at all of us, and Robin pointed out. You said they did not rule out extraterrestrial or alien, right?
Exactly. We got to keep looking.
All right. Martha, we appreciate you as always.
Why you got to call me out? I was watching the piece like everybody else. I'm minding my own business.